The rain fell in slow, steady streams, tracing silent paths down the window pane. The room was dimly lit, the air thick with the weight of unspoken words. Alex sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the faint reflection in the glass, the ghost of someone they once knew, someone they once trusted. How did it come to this? It was a question without an answer. The echoes of laughter that once filled this space had long faded, replaced by an unsettling silence. The warmth of shared moments, the promises whispered under the veil of night, all of it felt like an illusion now, a cruel trick played by fate. Or maybe they had just been blind. The weight of betrayal. Alex's phone buzzed, breaking the stillness. A name flashed on the screen, one they had sworn never to see again. Their fingers hovered over the screen, torn between the urge to answer and the overwhelming desire to throw the phone across the room. But what was the point? They already knew how this story ended. They had replayed it 1,000 times in their mind. The slow unraveling, the careful deception disguised as affection, the moment of realization when everything they believed in shattered. Love? No, it was never love. Not real love, just a beautiful lie wrapped in sweet words and empty promises. A soul searching for answers. Alex closed their eyes. It wasn't just about the betrayal, it was about the way it made them question everything. Were they too trusting, too naive, or had they simply wanted to believe in something good despite the warning signs? The mind searched for closure, for understanding, but all it found was an ache that refused to fade. Because the worst kind of pain wasn't just losing someone, it was realizing they never truly cared to begin with. Flickers of hope in the darkness, but somewhere deep in that pain, a different kind of fire began to burn. Not just anger, not just heartbreak, something stronger, something that whispered, "This is not where your story ends." For too long, Alex had lived in the shadows of what was lost. But maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop mourning what never was, to stop waiting for an apology that would never come, and instead, to rise, to reclaim their power, to become the person they were always meant to be. Because one day, those who had offered fake love would realize the truth, and on that day, their biggest regret would be losing the one who was real. The world had a cruel sense of timing. Just when Alex began to think they were pulling themselves together, life struck with a force that sent them reeling back into the darkness. It came unexpectedly, a message, a whispered conversation overheard, a moment of truth that cut deeper than any lie ever could. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a confirmation that everything they had once believed in had been nothing more than a game, a betrayal beyond comprehension. The notification lit up Alex's phone, casting a faint glow across the room. They hesitated. Something in their gut told them not to look, not to open it, but curiosity was a dangerous thing. And so, with trembling fingers, they tapped the screen. The words hit like a bullet. "I never really loved them. They were just convenient." Alex's breath caught in their throat. The sender, the same person who once swore they were different, the one who promised loyalty, who looked into their eyes and said all the right things. And the recipient, a friend, someone Alex had trusted, had confided in, had believed in. The room tilted slightly, the weight of the moment pressing against their chest. Had they really been nothing more than an afterthought, a temporary amusement? Was every shared moment, every whispered secret, every vulnerable confession just a lie? Their vision blurred, and for the first time in a long while, they felt something they swore they would never feel again. Weak. The war within, fight or surrender. The old Alex would have broken completely, would have drowned in the pain, letting it consume them whole. Would have believed that maybe, just maybe, they weren't enough. But something was different this time. Something burned beneath the surface. A choice loomed before them: fall apart, or rise from the ashes. The betrayal was undeniable. The pain was raw, searing, leaving scars that would never fully fade. But scars weren't just marks of pain, they were proof of survival. Alex took a shaky breath, gripping the edges of the phone so tightly their knuckles turned white. They had spent too long mourning the fake love they were given. It was time to start valuing the real love they could give themselves. The kind of love that wasn't conditional, that wasn't a game, that wasn't a performance. And as that realization settled deep into their bones, the pain didn't vanish, but it no longer controlled them. Because one day, the ones who took their love for granted would look back and realize they had lost someone irreplaceable. And by then, Alex would be long gone. The betrayal still clung to Alex like a shadow. But something inside them had shifted. They refused to be defined by the fake love they had received. Yet the pain wasn't gone. It was waiting beneath the surface, demanding to be faced. And so for the first time, Alex stopped running. They turned inward to the memories, the wounds, the pieces of themselves they had buried. Because before they could truly move forward, they had to confront the ghosts of their past, the haunting of old wounds. It started with a dream, or maybe a memory disguised as one. Alex stood in a dimly lit room, the air thick with silence. A younger version of themselves sat curled up in the corner, staring blankly ahead. Their eyes were hollow, empty. This was them before the betrayals, before the heartbreak, before they learned that love could be a weapon. A voice echoed in the room. "Why did you let them treat us like that?" Alex stiffened. The younger version of themselves finally looked up, tears brimming in their eyes. "Why did you stay when you knew they didn't love you?" Alex's chest tightened. They wanted to answer, to justify, to explain. But the truth was brutal. They had stayed because they had believed in people more than they had believed in themselves. They had accepted crumbs because they didn't think they deserved a feast. They had let the betrayal happen because deep down, they feared being alone, more than they feared being hurt. Alex took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry." The younger version of themselves didn't respond, but something in their gaze softened. The room began to blur, fading into the abyss. And when Alex woke up, their heart was pounding, because for the first time they understood. The real enemy wasn't the people who had betrayed them. It was the part of them that had let it happen. A guide in the dark. That realization alone wasn't enough. Change didn't happen overnight. Healing wasn't instant, but as fate would have it, someone unexpected appeared in Alex's life. A mentor, though not in the way one would imagine. Maybe it was an old friend who reappeared at the right moment. Maybe it was a stranger who said something that struck a chord. Maybe it was a book, a quote, a passing conversation that forced Alex to see things differently. "You don't owe anyone your suffering." Those words stuck with them. For so long, Alex had felt like they needed to prove something, to show those who betrayed them that they were worthy, to seek validation from people who had already thrown them away. But why? Why waste energy proving their worth to the very people who had never deserved them? The thought terrified them, because if they truly let go, if they stopped fighting for those who had hurt them, what was left? Who were they without their pain? Who were they if they no longer needed to be the victim? The fear of becoming someone new change is frightening, even when it's good, even when it's necessary. Alex stood at the edge of something unfamiliar, a new version of themselves waiting to be embraced. But the past had a powerful grip, and letting go meant stepping into the unknown. They were changing, but part of them still clung to the old wounds, afraid to release the only identity they had ever known, because healing meant admitting that the past no longer had power over them. And that in itself was the scariest thing of all. But something in Alex had already shifted. The process had begun. There was no turning back now. They had a choice to live in the wreckage of their past, or become someone their old self would have never imagined possible. Alex thought they had made progress. They had faced their past. They had begun to understand their pain rather than just endure it. But healing isn't a straight line. And just when they thought they had gained control, life hit them with the hardest truth yet, because the betrayal they thought they understood, it wasn't what it seemed. And now they were standing at a crossroads, one step away from giving up entirely. The ghost of a lie. The past has a way of rewriting itself. What was once clear becomes blurred. What was once betrayal now seemed different. Alex had spent months believing they had been abandoned, used, discarded. But then a conversation, one they hadn't expected, changed everything. "You think I wanted to hurt you?" Alex froze. The voice belonged to the last person they ever expected to hear from again. The one who had walked away without an explanation. The one whose silence had hurt more than any lie. "You don't know the whole story." A part of Alex didn't want to know. They had made peace with their version of events. They had learned to live with the anger. They had built their strength on the foundation of being wronged. But now they weren't so sure. Because the truth, the real truth, was far more complicated. The breaking point: anger is easier than grief. Rage is simpler than understanding. Alex had spent so long carrying their pain like armor, convinced they were the only victim. But as the truth unraveled, something inside them cracked. The person they had once trusted, the one who had betrayed them, hadn't left out of cruelty. They had left because they had no choice. Maybe it was fear. Maybe it was self-destruction. Maybe it was love twisted into something unrecognizable. Whatever it was, Alex could no longer see things in black and white. And that realization broke them. Because if they weren't just the victim, then who were they? The weight of it all came crashing down. They had fought so hard to prove they were strong. But right now, they had never felt weaker. Tears blurred their vision as the past, the present, and the unbearable truth collided. And for the first time in forever, they considered giving up on everything. Because if nothing was what it seemed, if they had spent all this time fighting a war that never existed, then what was the point? The choice. This was it. The moment that would define them. They could fall, let the weight of everything drag them down for good. Or they could rise, not for revenge, not to prove anything, but because they deserved to heal. And healing meant letting go of anger, of resentment, of the person they used to be. Because no matter how much they had been hurt, carrying that pain forever wasn't an option anymore. And so, standing at the edge of their past and their future, Alex made a choice to step forward into the unknown, into something better, into who they were meant to become. Alex had made the choice to step forward, to let go of the past that had weighed them down. But redemption isn't just a decision, it's an action. And the moment had arrived for Alex to prove that they were no longer the person defined by their pain. But to do that, they would have to risk everything. The breaking of old chains. The past had always dictated Alex's actions. When hurt, they withdrew. When betrayed, they built walls. When faced with pain, they turned it into anger. But this time had to be different. Because the only way forward wasn't to fight against the past, it was to rewrite it. And that meant confronting the person who had shattered them. Not with vengeance, not with rage, but with something far more terrifying: understanding. The price of redemption. Redemption always comes at a cost. For Alex, the cost was vulnerability. Standing face to face with the one who had caused them so much pain. They felt the familiar pull of old habits. It would be easy to lash out, to demand explanations, to make them feel the same pain Alex had endured. But that would only keep the cycle going. And Alex was done living in that loop. I understand now. The words came quietly. The person before them tensed, expecting anger, expecting blame. But Alex wasn't here for revenge. They were here to break free. Because if the past had been built on pain, then the future had to be built on forgiveness. Not for the other person, but for themselves. The twist that changes everything. Just as Alex believed they had finally gained closure, a revelation shattered everything they thought they knew. Because the betrayal that had shaped their entire journey, it hadn't happened the way they thought. The truth was deeper, more painful, and somehow, more freeing. The person they had resented for so long had never meant to hurt them. They had made a choice, a terrible, desperate choice, one meant to protect Alex rather than destroy them. And now, knowing this, Alex had a final choice to make. Would they hold on to the anger they had carried for so long, or would they finally fully let it go? The world is still broken, but Alex is not. The world hadn't changed. The scars of the past still existed, but Alex was no longer the same person. They had fought, they had broken, they had healed. And now, they stood not as a victim, not as someone seeking revenge, but as someone free. And that freedom, that was the greatest redemption of all. Alex stood at the edge of everything they had been through. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every moment they had questioned whether they could go on. And now, for the first time, they felt something unfamiliar but undeniable: peace. Making peace with the past. The past had haunted Alex for too long. For years it had whispered that they were unworthy, that they had been abandoned, that the love they had given had been wasted. But now, standing in the aftermath of everything, they saw the truth. Yes, the wounds had been real. Yes, the pain had shaped them, but those things did not define them. What defined them was what they chose next. And they chose healing. Not because the past was erased, not because everything had suddenly become perfect, but because they deserved to be free. Justice is not revenge. It's understanding. For so long, Alex had believed justice meant making others feel the pain they had felt. But now, looking into the eyes of the one who had hurt them, they saw something unexpected: regret. Not every villain remains a villain. Not every betrayer is unrepentant. And not every story ends with revenge. Because justice isn't about destruction, it's about change. And Alex, they had changed. They no longer needed an apology to move forward. They no longer needed an explanation to heal. They simply needed to decide, who do I want to be from this moment on? Something once lost is regained in a different form. No, Alex couldn't get back what they had lost. The love that had been fake, the trust that had been broken, the years they had spent searching for answers in all the wrong places. But what they found instead, themselves. And that was worth more than anything they had lost. Because in losing everything they had gained the one thing that could never be taken from them again, their own power. The final reflection, what did this journey truly mean? The journey had never been about proving anyone wrong. It had never been about making others pay. It had been about becoming whole again. And now, standing in the light of a new day, Alex understood the fake love they had once been given. It would become their greatest teacher. Because while others had given them false love, Alex had learned how to give themselves something real. And that was a regret no one could ever escape. Because the greatest revenge was becoming someone they could never break again. To everyone who has been hurt, betrayed, or abandoned, know this: the pain they caused you will never define you. Your story is still yours to write, so make sure it ends with you rising higher than they ever imagined.